In this episode, we're touching on the urgent and current case of the coronavirus and all the hype that's around it. So bear with us as we're going to go over some numbers that'll keep it real for you and put things in perspective. Our messages of love and support and appreciation, and very positive as to what you can do as human beings to take care of yourself and not feel trapped or stuck in fear. Enjoy. Welcome to Frankly Speaking with Dr. Wade. This show was created for and inspired by the thousands of patients I've served, so it's time for me to speak up and speak out on their behalf. With a wide range of experts, we bring you weekly insights, diving deep into topics of controversy to bust through the sugar coating that keeps you and your family stuck in the mainstream. Sliding furniture across the floor.
My wife is sliding furniture across the floor, exactly. It's going to pick up on this microphone. You got to be like really, really quiet. Okay.
You know, she's so productive, though. I love that she's always busy over there.
She's always doing something.
What is she doing over there? So, everybody, there's a lot of noise happening, and we are all getting sucked in if we just listen to the media. And by the way, there's several stations that are really, really deserve raspberries in terms. Maybe it's Rotten Tomatoes. That's what it should be. Rotten Tomatoes in terms of how they're sensationalizing this and creating more and more hysteria and fear rather than supporting any logic or groundedness in it. So I want to state one thing before this goes any further, that Dr. DeLolo and I are coming from a neutral stance. That's a mid-ground, grounded stance that combines scientific awareness and knowledge with a non-extremist point of view. All right, we're looking at the middle road, which is how do you navigate through this mess and keep your wits about you, as though the sky is not falling, because it is not falling. Yet, someone wants you to believe it is. And the question I ask you is, what's the motivation in having you believe that it is? How has it changed your behavior? As my brother tells me last night, there's fights in Walmart, people fighting over tissue paper. Why? Over something that is possibly true, but not probably true.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think the motivation is, Dr. Wade?
For those of you who don't want to talk conspiracy theory, I'm not gonna conjecture that I know exactly what's going on, but I'm involved legislatively, and there's some really interesting justification that's going into this effort. And one of them is the agenda that's being proposed through a certain party that is trying to get all your personal convictions and your philosophical and your religious exemptions to go away, to be taken away from you, so that pharmaceutically they can force certain things in your body without your control. And my point for stating that is not conspiracy. It's awareness to a bigger agenda. And it happened very predictably and will continue to happen until this party gains their footing. And so the bottom line is not to take this lightly, but it's to see the big picture. So if you, the public, is in mass hysteria, you are very, very behaviorally controllable. Mm-hmm. Which means the push in a direction, you're going to have to become aware of where they want you to go. And that is to rely on their solution, which is, you have this to fear, and it's so massively dangerous that we're going to offer the only solution for you. And that's why we need to take a hold, we as in that body, that agenda, and make decisions for you, because you don't know any better, and we have to control this population through this chemical means, so to speak. So it's like a sci-fi movie, isn't it?
It's unbelievable. Can you still hear me good, Dr. Wade?
Yeah, your volume went down, but you sound clear.
How about right now? Is that better?
That's better.
Okay,
so
good.
What's your take on it?
Well, to your point, you and I both learned when emotions are high, logic is
Low.
Right? So to Dr. Wade's point, when the emotions are high and hysteria is being created and people are falling into that trap, you're not going to, and it's no offense to you or anybody, myself included, you're not going to come from a logical perspective because the way the brain works, because the way the brain hormones work. And when your emotions go high and your adrenaline raises and your cortisol levels elevate from your adrenal glands, your brain chemistry changes and logic decreases in a major, major way. So to his point, be very careful of that. You said that your brother was talking about fights in Walmart. We just, it's an absolute crying shame, but here's what's happening across the country. And I know there's worse things in life, okay? But I'm just going to say that this is a crying shame. I have family members that had a major, major, major event going on for St. Patty's Day, okay? Major, like big, like 2-day, 3-day town event. Everyone's involved, everyone's included. And we just got the notice on our cell phones from the township that it is canceled. Done. Caputo. Finished. So, I called my family and I said, what's going on? Like WTF? And basically, talk about falling into the hysteria. Whether you agree with me or not right now, it makes no difference to me whatsoever. Where do you think, that an event like that shouldn't go on, where there's going to be a massive amount of people or not? I don't care. I don't care about that. What I'm saying is, the problem that she shared with me was people in the township were already, commenting on the Facebook feed and saying things like, I can't believe this event is still going on. Why isn't this canceled? Don't they understand what's going on in the country? I'll never go to that place again, blah, 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 blah. I mean, really? Really? We have other friends. Go ahead.
No, you're bringing up such a good point. I mean, we could, we're sitting here trying to protect everybody's opinion as though everyone needs protecting. Some people are blatantly perpetuating this dogmatic myth on a huge scale. Should that not be discussed? I mean, should that not be acknowledged?
And why does that person's opinion matter than anybody else for that matter? Just because it's not the same. You know what I'm saying? Like, isn't that a double standard in the country?
Right. Let's just coddle that opinion. Let's just coddle it. No, what I'm saying is it's not discompassion. It's at what point? Okay. One, I just had a fantastic interview with a patient who is an advocate for health, not just chiropractic. She's an advocate and a role model because of making logical sense with health and understanding the big picture in the role. And what's scary is there's not enough of her out there. And the ones that aren't on the platform. It's the ones that are most afraid, and they're perpetuating this because that agenda is the controlling, the behavioral automating agenda. I mean, look what you're doing. You watch the news, they're driving your behavior. Stop for a second. It doesn't mean Dr. Frank and I aren't taking this seriously. We are. But stop for a second. The perspective is your body's a self-healer. This is not the first virus party you've been to. We are a species that is adaptive over time. Our exposure to some germs is crucially important for your own biome, for your own health. And yet you're being told that you need to wipe everything clean and that sterility is the answer for life. It's the answer for sickness. And why is this the weird? Why is this the quack behavior or the quack opinion or the pseudoscientific one when this is actually grounded in health principles over eons in our whole makeup? The same bacteria and fungus and viruses and molds and spores that are existing will continue to exist as a result of adaptation. Yeah, that's a rant, but it's like,
it's the truth.
Really? Hey, what do you say we talk about the numbers in the article we both just read this morning regarding actual data? You okay to talk about that?
I am. Yeah, I got it in front of me as well.
Let's break it down really simply. So there's 10 myths that go on with the coronavirus. Myths are spreading faster than the actual virus. So many of you had heard with some recent information. And by the way, pick your station. You're either getting complete misinformation or you're getting a station that's actually got more accurate information that's keeping you a little more grounded. And the judgment that you may or may not have, and it's probably not our audience, because if they're watching this, they either, hang out in the camp or not. But the point is, it's not about a camp. It's about actually having a discernment towards the information and respecting, what's real, what's not. And what happens when I sit here and worry about this all day and I fear that my life is over and the sky is falling? When you take the information, you look at it and you take a breath, these myths, this is done by a physician, so not a chiropractor, and he's reevaluating the perpetuation of what's being shared. And he's looking at, for example, Sanjay Gupta's actual inaccurate information that 2 to 3% mortality is what this is causing. Dr. Dolo, what do you know about that, by the way?
About Sanjay Gupta, or what was the other
statement?
No,
his 2 to 3%. How accurate or inaccurate is that based on the numbers we looked at and read here?
Well, it's inaccurate. So I'm not so versed in these numbers. I'm looking at them now here. But the point is that those are 2 to 3% is a false number, and it's based on faulty facts. And he explains in this article that it can't be so. I don't remember what the numbers were exactly, but I remember reading something like 0.65 or 0.84. Dr. Wade, are you familiar with what I'm talking about?
Yeah. So basically, here's a couple numbers that were thrown out. So as of the 10th, right? So 2 days ago, they've had over 4,000 deaths worldwide. And again, the average seasonal flu kills between 291,000 to 646,000 people. Factual data. Mm-hmm. And so this is being blown up completely right now to, again, modify behavior and coerce behavior. The CDC just announced that the U.S. had 20,000 flu deaths this season alone, with 350,000 hospitalizations. Mm-hmm. That's also cited in the research. Today, on average, 48,219 people will die of cardiac disease. Why is that any less important? Why are you still doing what you do, smoking, drinking, not taking care of your body from a health standpoint? And you're more worried about this virus than you are about your heart disease that you have a greater risk for based on your lifestyle and your propensity. So why the abject panic? And number one, we can talk about the top 10 coronavirus misconceptions. And the first one is that Sanjay Gupta talked about a 2 to 3% death rate from the coronavirus. Well, number one, it's completely inaccurate and it's based on data. So that would be
Wuhan data, by the way, Dr. Wade, I'm just reading now. COVID-19 does not have a 2 to 3% mortality rate. That number comes from the Chinese Wuhan data.
Perfect. Go ahead.
So, I don't want to read it to people here, but it just says the issue is not that the number represents mostly sick people tested for the disease versus total deaths. Regrettably, that's not how a mortality rate is calculated, which uses all that contracted the disease as the denominator. And he shows a diagram, which I can't show you here. But basically, He's saying that that's where they're getting the data from. And it said the outside of Wuhan mortality, where there was wider testing of most that had contracted the disease, was 0.4% based on a report published by the Chinese CDC.
So what Dr. DeLolo just said was, not only was the 2 to 3% of the population mortality rate inaccurate, it's less than 1%, less than 0.5%. So it's 0.4% of those infected are actually dying as a result of that. So do you put in perspective where this is? Can you put in perspective where this is? Or do you have to completely get sucked into that media misrepresentation? So great. And what about, a couple other numbers, by the way, is the mortality rate and from the Princess Cruise. People say, well, what about this cruise ship outside of Japan? By the way, it's the only place so far where you can be sure that they tested all exposed in a closed environment. And that was 0.85%, to your point, Dr. DeLolo, was that, again, less than 1% mortality rate. And in South Korea, they tested 100,000 people, and the case for fatality rate or death rate was less than, it was 0.65%, again, less than 1%. In that case, less than 0.75%. So what's real in the mortality rate? A under 1% mortality rate from this, which means it's hitting, and we'll cover that, a 75-year and older is much higher risk than the young. And with the anything lower than the 70 plus age range is less than 1%.
Let's just mention something about that real quick, because you and I on the pod yesterday or the day before, I don't recall, I'm losing track now because they're kind of blending. But we were talking about the fact that just because you're old, it doesn't mean you have a poor immune system, right? You and I were saying that, it's affecting the elderly because, they're old. And that's making
Correct.
the assumption that because when we age as human beings, that our immune system gets worse and worse. And that is not true. That is not true whatsoever. We both said that we knew people in their 90s that have thriving immune systems. But let's call it what it is. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I have a poster in my office that shows, it says across, I saw it on a newspaper clipping years and years ago. So I literally took it and then I blew it up into like a big picture frame because I want people to think. And I'm not bashing medicine by saying this, but I'm just simply stating the facts. I don't know if you remember seeing this, Dr. Wade, where it said drug-free America. Drug-free America. And it shows like children from 0 to 4 taking, amoxicillin like candy. And then, they graduate to, no dose in high school and then amphetamine based. And then when you're young and you start having your children, you go on to Prozac because you can't handle it. And then whatever, the story. You just keep taking more and more and more drugs. And it's very prevalent. Like people would say, yeah, that's pretty much how it goes. And then at the very end, there's a picture of an elderly person in a wheelchair swallowing like a bottle of pills. And it says, 75 and older, everything else. So to that point, why the elderly, the quote unquote elderly, people 70 and above, if that's the barometer you want to use, are more immunosuppressed and their immune systems are a little bit weaker? Do you think that it's more prevalent that a person that is 70 or above and or a person that is 7 years or younger, who is most probably taking and consuming more medication? What would you say? The older person or the younger person?
Well, according to patterns, the older person's shoebox was the old figurative speech or nomenclature around it was a shoebox of meds. And the shoebox full of meds doesn't get smaller as they age, it gets bigger. And so what's interesting about that is you're going to hear arguments all the way around to this. And I get it because everyone's got an opinion. Mm-hmm. And everyone's an expert, but everyone isn't an expert. And Dr. Frank and I don't have all the answers, but we certainly have clinical experience. And as much as, being a student of the game is being open to new information. And like Dr. Frank said, it's not saying all medicine's bad. Look, if I have a crisis, heart attack, break my leg, again, crises, I'm going to go where you're going to go, which is solve the immediate crises problem, which is fantastic in mainstream medicine. But when you're talking about treating chronic disease and now finding ways and reasons to get more drugs in people as a result and at a younger age to drive that particular economy is insanity in and of itself. When you look at how we consume drugs in the United States, over 80%, and it could be 84 or 87, it's kind of a moving number, of the drugs consumed in the world are done by the U.S. Really? Wow, what a free market. So
think about that.
I mean, again, shocking. Is this shocking? You can sit here and deny everything you want about holistic care for whatever reasons or biases you have. I just posted an episode on health bias, and we all have a health bias, and it doesn't make health biases bad. Health biases exist. It's becoming aware of where they are. And when you choose a leader, when you choose someone to influence you, let's say it's Sanjay Gupta, and do you think I want someone who's misinforming the public, influencing my health decisions? Or do you think I want a pharmaceutical company being in control of what goes in and out of my body? Wow, here, have a free pass to give me whatever you want for your own reasons in your own game. That makes zero sense. But sorry for being conscious and sorry for being, no, I'm not sorry. But the point is, at some point, people, you have to wake up to the reality and stop living in denial and then perpetuating the fearful myth to the rest of your peeps, like you're right.
Exactly.
Was that too much, Frank?
No, I loved it. I loved it. And you know what? I think people need to hear it again, to the point where we say, are people that are listening to us, they're going to agree or disagree with us? We're just giving perspective. We're staying in neutral, but we're stating the facts as we see it. And then as you and I both said, or no, we know that there's people that you and I both know that watch this podcast, and what has been said to you via to me is, yeah, you can recite the statistics and so forth, but we want to know how you feel, Dr. Wade.
Right.
So here's how.
That's where,
right?
Yeah. So here's a couple quick, to move on this 10 points based on time, because we know you, the listener's attention span isn't what it used to be.
Are you talking to me? Go ahead.
Yeah.
The
coronavirus myth, the coronavirus is aerosolized and the flu is not. Hence, the spread of the disease is much more than the flu. Absolute nonsense. The flu virus is also aerosolized, which is the primary way it's spread. Again, wow, let's scare people with that. 3, coronavirus survives much longer on surfaces than the flu virus, which is up to 9 days on plastic. This rumor was started by the Washington Post and is also not accurate as written. So again, you can dig deeper, and we're going to put a link to this article so you can read it for yourself. I don't want to spoon feed, but some of you need it, want it. The next point, but Dr. Frank, did you have anything to say on that?
No, I'm reading through with you. I mean, it's just, I think people should know these things. And again, posting, it's going to be smart so they could read it if they want.
Yep. So the coronavirus will ramp up in the U.S. over the next few months. And by summer, we will become China, a country on lockdown with millions of cases, and health system will crash. Well, I'll tell you what, when I read that, wow, do I feel helpless, hopeless, and who's going to save me? Because that sky falling is very predictive in moving the sheeple, the people that have no grounding, no sense of understanding, no understanding of how the body actually works, and how this germ isn't so new in the world. Yes, there's mutations, but there's always been mutations, and they will continue to mutate because it's an RNA. It's an RNA virus, not a DNA virus, which means RNA just simply means it replicates faster than a DNA virus, and it's a protein enveloped virus. And so when you talk about lifespan, you're going to talk about how over time that it sits on a surface, it's actually attenuated or weakened, so it loses. There's something in this article too. It just talks about a number for you. Literally in the thousands, it actually drops in its virility rate. So whether that is or isn't, just realize that they're floating around already. They're lying dormant in soil. I mean, they're everywhere, and you can't just wipe your cupboard down 24 hours a day and expect you need to live in a sterile environment. I mean, you need exposure to biome. That's part of your immunological response. But again, it doesn't drive your dollars if you're empowered.
That's the crying shame of this. As I've spoken with you and others this morning, I spoke to 2 other doctors besides yourself this morning, just by chance, talking about other things, but it always came back to this conversation. It's insane. One of the things I want to bring up from the article here that I'm just reading, it says, forget about China. The real disaster is Italy. Right?
Yes.
Now,
next point.
Italy is near and dear to my heart, right? Because, that's where we're from and we still have family, et cetera, there.
He's Italian. Can you tell?
But I'm just gonna put this out there because again, we're on this podcast.
Hey, you see the name of this show?
Yeah. It's
Stop making excuses. You talk frankly. Speak
frankly
openly.
Speaking. I think we should all think about what I'm about to say. I'm not saying that I think it's true. I'm saying that I don't know. How about we
say, what if, is there a possibility? What if this is possible?
Yeah. Think about this. Okay, good. Great way to say it. Think about if this is a possibility. Is there a connection? And I don't even know if I said this to you, Dr. Wade. Is there a connection between Wuhan, China, if that's how you say it, I hope, Wuhan, whatever, and Italy, specifically Milano, but Italy. What is the connection there? Well, those are the two areas that this corona is the worst, right? Or wrong? Right?
Currently threatened as the worst.
Okay. Is it coincidental that Wuhan, I heard this, that Wuhan, the people started to revolt and protest over there because two things, a 5G tower or something related to 5G. And then also what I heard was a garbage, because they have a big time garbage problem over there, a garbage incinerator. They wanted to install, have a garbage plant incinerator in Wuhan. And the people were like, we're done. We are up to here. We already have so much sickness and disease and illness here. Now, over here in the States, we all realize you can burn the flag, you can do all kinds of, you can lewd, you can do all these things. And our government says, people are just expressing themselves. Okay. All right. Well, we live in a free democracy, supposedly. And okay. Over there in China, you protest like that, you take your life in your hands. Okay. Number two, in Italy, those of you may or may not know, the vaccination issue over there became mandatory and they lost, right? The government says you must do this. And from what I understand, there was a big time protest and they are still revolting currently right now, right? Like big time, more than anywhere in the world, because they were affected deeply by it. Is it coincidental that the virus is more prevalent in those two areas? I don't know. I'm not saying I have the answer. Dr. Wade, your thoughts on that?
Well, you're still not being frank enough. So get frank with what is the coincidence of it? Why? What are you stating? I mean, what's the point of blowing up that it's the worst over there? Who benefits by doing that?
Pharma.
Why?
More control.
Justifying the need for demand.
Yep. And if you're protesting in this part of the world really bad, guess what? We're going to do it. Now, again, am I saying, did they throw the virus there? I don't, exactly. That's my point. I don't have the answer. You said, what am I trying to say? I don't even know what I'm trying to say, except that I know that I'm saying, I want people to think about that. Think about that. Just think. You can come up with your own conclusions, but you can't deny that that's what's going on, because it is.
So what's the possibility? There was several posts this morning, again, people saying something fishy is going on. And since I'm involved legislatively and was testifying last week on something similar and have to testify on something different next week at the Capitol, I'm learning a ton about what happens legislatively and how things move and how they're manipulated, and literally how the parties are working with and without each other. And
so you've been nauseous a lot lately? Is that it?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It is a nauseating experience to realize the magnitude with which some of this stuff gets done and who's getting it done. And then who speaks on behalf of representing certain populations, groups, associations, and how personalities and ideologies make the decisions, right? It's personalities and people actually at war individually, and how things go through, right or wrong. Right. Right. So there's a lot of distraction techniques that happen. They're very divisive in terms of what happens. And I think what you're alluding to, and I'll just maybe break down in English, and God forbid the censorship that's going to go on as a result of people thinking freely in this country. But when the economy is booming and you and I are both self-employed and we have challenges finding great help, we're supposed to be angry and upset with the success of the economy, even though our businesses struggle to find great help because the employment rate is so low, like it's never been. And so there's success in our economy, yet we are structurally meeting we're hitting challenges with that. I'm supposed to complain? No, it's a good problem to have. I celebrate that the economy wins, not bitch because my situation's harder. And it's like, where am I entitled? Where are we entitled? So my point for mentioning that is, while there's been success, there's a party that wants to see everything about the success be destroyed and is unrelenting at how much damage they're going to cause to get what they want. And so this boom in shutting economy down, all these tournaments, how about March Madness? Wow, is this not timely or what? Yeah. Just think about the big picture, people, for a second. You don't have to even buy into any conspiracy. Just stay awake and look at the possibility that you're being diverted from the reality, and you're being now laid down tracks that justify the behavior of why your rights should be taken away. Because that's what that party's doing. I don't have to mention one. It's really obvious who's bought in to taking your rights away. And the funny thing is, they claim to be for the people. That's what's funny.
It's hilarious. And you got to watch too, because you have to look at the news media people, celebrities, etc., that speak out and who, quite frankly, they're owned by. Who's at the top telling them what to do? Yeah, I had a patient yesterday. He must be, I think he's close friends with the head coach at UVA for boys lacrosse. He told me, and I think it's true because I just confirmed it with another a friend of mine who lives in Connecticut, that all Ivy League schools canceled the rest of their seasons, not the next few games, the rest of their seasons. Yale, right now in the boys lacrosse, is number one in the country. We'll never know if they're the true champions or not. You know what I'm saying? Because it's over. And again, people could be like, that's just sports. That's no big deal or whatever. Is it really about the sports? That's what I want you to think about. Is it really about the sports? You know?
No. You know what? It's hard. It's difficult, honestly, to share.
I think it's true because they just confirmed it with him. Wow, that was weird.
What are you doing?
That was weird, right?
Yeah, that was weird. So people just stay open. It doesn't mean Dr. Frank and I are right about everything, nor are we claiming to. We're just proposing questions to be conscious. It's not about being polarizing. It's about being revealing and expressive as to possibilities so that you can gain more power in your life and be more empowered. It's not about being negative. It's keeping a grounded sense about you. So circling back around, just know that it doesn't, the station you choose to watch is either feeding your belief set or your dogma, or you need to turn it off and tune things out and find ways to recenter yourself. Dr. Frank, you just told me earlier when we were talking, if I don't go get a workout in, I'm going to be, you feel like you're going to kind of explode. And some of that is because there's such a rapid pace of what's happening here and information being doled out and thrown around and wielded for individual agendas that it does make it hard. And we don't want to be the next noise that just says, hey, these guys got an agenda. It's more like, wow, let's ask some questions. Let's stop running around like chickens with our heads cut off and just see if we can ground ourselves on some solid footing and gather, and then be a beacon or a light for those that are just completely at odds with this whole scenario, and then just seeing nothing but gray clouds over them or a dark cloud.
I really don't want to be talking about this right now. I really don't, but I feel compelled to. I feel like if you talk about the concept of duty, do I have a duty to do it? I think I do. Otherwise I wouldn't be here, but I really don't want to. I'd rather Dr. Wade and I be talking about health promoting ideas and health promoting concepts and how you can make your life better by enriching your life instead of and again, this is partly doing that, but because it's so right here, forefront, right in front. You turn on the TV right now or go to any media source right now. They're talking about it. There's no way they're talking about anything else. They're talking about it right now. And, I just feel like we have the duty. By the way, the last point in the article, I don't know if you want to wrap this up, but the last one says,
Yep.
If you have cold symptoms, you probably have the coronavirus. And so what does it say about that, Dr. Wade?
It says, for one, it's not true. Number one, the main symptoms are fever and a dry cough with or without the shortness of breath. And there's a number of things. There's so many things going on. There's multiple viruses as a result, but yet, you're told not to travel. There's no reason to travel. You should just stay quarantined and stay home. if you feel like you have it, stay quarantined and do your thing. But basically just get better. Take care of yourself, self-care, and get better. Chiropractic is a huge part because it enhances the immune system. Patients will share that. Dr. Frank and I can. But again, it sounds like it's a bias and it's self-serving. But the reality is it's a part of what we both do. I got adjusted this morning. I adjusted my wife. I'll get adjusted as more than normal in the next several weeks because of what I'm up against. And I share that with my patients too, because the reality is I have to resist the constant barrage of germs that come through every day. And I'm not afraid of being exposed to those. We take precaution, but we live confidently. We live confidently in the process of the balance, rather, of the yin and yang of whoops, where are my hands? I don't know what to do with my hands. Science, knowledge. So it's a faith based on understanding the body, not faith blindly like, oh, I'm recklessly believing I'm going to be okay. It's very groundedly based. So when we have a conversation with someone who's hyping, which would be great, I'd love to get someone, dude, can you get someone live that we can talk to about this? All it would be is this debate on their view versus our perspective. But I mean, the reality is, it's kind of like Dr. Wilson trying to get Shapiro on. Yeah, we could.
Okay.
What do you want to put on?
I there's plenty. I'll see what we can do. We'll get them on.
Okay, sounds good. So to wrap that up,
in closing, I just want to say, in closing, I want to let people and the listeners and the viewers know you have the power within you. That's basically what Dr. Wade is saying. You don't need something outside of you to have a strong immune system and get through life. You have the power within you. It needs to be unleashed, and it needs to be not supported and not interfered with. Okay, and I would say that I know that there are people that might listen to us and feel as though we are downplaying the seriousness of this issue with the coronavirus and any other virus for that matter. We are not. I hope you got that message loud and clear. And I know that there's also some viewers and listeners that are very supportive. And I just got a message I told Dr. Wade earlier from an ex-employee of mine. And she said, Doc, I mean, she said it in this way, but she said, basically what she said is keep going. There's mass hysteria out here. A lot of people are confused. Information. We need the information. We need to know what's really going on. So that's why I'm here.
Yep. We had several folks chime in here and give us thumbs up on this too. And the reality is they know they got to deal with their family and keep their family grounded too, because everyone's freaking out. Don't freak out. Don't go off the deep end. Just find a way. And again, we're not, I love what you said. We're not downplaying it. We're literally just saying, whoa. Just get some facts before you go off the deep end.
Pump the brakes.
All right. Hey, brother, thanks so much for your time. Hopefully you guys got something out of this. Share this with somebody who's doubtful, skepticized, and you see going down that rabbit hole of fear and just going crazy. Share some knowledge with them. Drop this. And I will put a link on the site here with this research article so you can read it for yourself to get some more facts. And choose your news team wisely and choose your leaders who have your best interests in mind. Choose them wisely. Know where their biases are. And if they're coming from fear, you're going to be taken down that fearful path. If they're coming from reason, knowledge-based, and a happy medium where you're recognizing the dangers, but your activity and behaviors are empowering, stick with them.
Activity. Peace.
Activity. Ciao, brother. Thank you much for listening to this week's episode. I look forward to any feedback and or questions you might have. Direct them to our Facebook page, Frankly Speaking, Dr. Wade at Facebook. Okay, my fellow health warriors, it's time to head over to iTunes, franklyspeakingdrwade.com. There, you can rate, review, and subscribe, as well as share so more of our brothers and sisters can grow to realize their voice. Speaking up means you matter. So, get on it. This podcast is for information purposes only. The statements and views expressed are not medical advice and are not meant to replace the medical advice of your doctor. This podcast, including Dr. Wade Annenson and his guests, disclaim responsibility for any adverse effects you may experience from the specific use of information contained herein. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse and accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about the guest qualifications or credibility. This podcast may contain paid endorsements and advertisements for such services or product. Individuals on this podcast may have direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein. If you think you have a medical problem, consult a licensed physician.